Okay, so today we're working with that. So this is coming out today. And we are going to be putting in this, which I clearly opened the wrong side of the box. So, in the box, from Moss Miata, you get a very well-wrapped intake tube with couplers. These are not pre-installed. I've installed those myself already. You get a whole bunch of hose clamps in there. You get your K&N filter, which I'm not overly happy with, but I just won't be oiling it for other reasons. And then you get your heat shield here, and then your instructions. And a ton more packaging was in this box, but I've already pulled that out. So the instructions are fairly straightforward. Basically, take one out and put the other one back in. So we'll walk through that. This is a 98, which was unavailable in North America. It is a JDM one. So I was able to find zero information online about 98s. But apparently this kit is supposed to fit, so we're going to find out. I guess everything is where everything would be on a 99, minus the air horns. So we'll pull it apart and go from there. So the first thing we're going to do is pull the intake tube off and then go from there. Okay, so first step is taking a little hose clamp off here. You just need a Phillips or a socket for that would be okay. Then you come over to your airbox side, you got another one there, that comes off. And then you got your breather tube, and that just slides straight off the center there. In the instructions it says there's supposed to be a clip on this, but there is not, clearly, or a clamp, I guess. And then according to the instructions, you pull a whole engine out with one hand apparently, because this is all that's holding it in. And just wiggle these guys off. So there we go. Crossover tube, there it is now out. So that was step one. That's out. Now step two talks about getting the breather tube off, so that was easy enough. And then we start unplugging connectors. So the connectors that you want to get out are this one here on your mass airflow sensor, just the plug right there. And it looks like it is secured to the box here, so a trim tool or something like that to pop that off. And then you have your intake air temperature sensor on this side, and you want to unplug that little guy too. And there's a little clip down here holding it to the airbox. Okay, so we got the wiring off. I should note that it is held onto the airbox with these little clips here. Sorry, the wire's in the way there. Like that little clip sits in here. Now, the easiest way, instead of prying these out, you can get a pair of needle nose pliers into the back end here, and actually just these little tangs that are, oh, that's my thumb. These little tangs, you just squeeze them, and they slide right out. So that's easy enough. So anyway, so the wiring's off. There was 3 clamps holding it on, one there, then there was a clip back there, and another retaining clip right there. So you take those 3 off. Now the next thing it's telling me is to unbolt the snorkel. So what they're referring to, of course, is this snorkel right here. Now you won't have this. This is the compressor I'm using for my air horn, so we're going to have to move that someplace. And if you do have this, get rid of it. I want to be the only one with one, so to hell with you. But we're going to pull this bolt out here, and then we're going to move from that one to these 2 here to get this this big shield out and the snorkel. So the snorkel is out. This little guy just lives in there. Just kind of connects up, and that little bolt hole there is where the bolt came out of. Now the instructions are telling me that I can get rid of that, but I have got to save the bolt for later use. So the next step in the instructions here are taking the relays out and this big shield here. So to get that out, you got a 10 mil right there. Then you've got another 10 mil right down there. And then the 2 bolts holding your relays on. Now, this bolt you won't have because you won't have this air compressor, but I'm going to pull that off too, and then just whip this shield out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so the bracket that holds the relays is out, and now they're telling me I got to remove this bolt here on the corner of the airbox, and that one buried way in there. So if you have your washer bottle here, it's 10 mil there and a 10 mil there. They don't tell you that in the instructions. And then there's a rubber grommet way down there that holds it. And if you just pull up, that pops out and you can just slide it over so you can get to that 12 mil down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull that guy way down there. and this one here, and then apparently the airbox itself should just come out. So we'll try that. That big gaping opening there is where that was. So we just pull that out. Now it sits on a little rubber foot down here. This car is 20 years old, so that didn't give me any resistance whatsoever. I just pulled it straight out, and the airbox came off. Now the next step is telling me that I got to take out these two bolts that are underneath the airbox, and take out this metal bracket and get rid of it, so we don't need that one. So we'll pull out that, and then that is everything removed from the car. Now when you take your airbox out, be careful with this bit, because you got to remove this whole tube and mass airflow sensor as one unit. Don't unbolt the mass airflow sensor from here. We'll be taking these 10 mils out and pulling this off. That is the next step in the instructions, is the two 10 mils and pull that out once you've taken the metal bracket out. So we'll pop that off and then start assembling. So we have our airbox lid. Note, there's a sensor gone from there and a giant mass airflow sensor gone from there. Now pulling the mass airflow was a little tight because that rubber is old. And once you get the intake air temperature sensor off, there's this little grommet that holds it in that we apparently need to use again. So when you're pulling the intake air temperature sensor out, the little one, pull very gently and very straight so you don't break the little nub on the end there. And then with the actual mass airflow sensor, okay, that just pulls out straight, and it may or may not pull the rubber gasket out with it. According to the instructions, we no longer need this rubber gasket, but I'm going to hold on to that until I know for sure. So now the next step is putting together the intake tube. That's pretty straightforward. You put the sensor in, put the silicone hoses on, throw it in the car. So we're going to get to putting the hose together, which, as I said, is mostly almost done. I've already got the silicone hose on one end and the silicone hose on the other, so we'll unbox that. And then we'll work with getting this bracket in. The intake tube is built as much as we can now. So we got silicone on here with a coupler, still loose so we can move and tweak and twist. The other coupler will go over that end of the throttle body. And we've stuffed the grommet and the intake air temperature sensor into the pre-drilled hole there. We put this coupler on. With these, again, they're loose. This isn't on there firm. And the mass airflow sensor is just sort of sitting in the tube. So the next thing is the heat shield. So that, according to the instructions, just goes in with a bolt and we're all happy. So we'll see how that goes. So the shield is in. We used this bolt that we took out here from the snorkel. Don't worry about this. I got to figure that out later. That's for my air horns. Now this just kind of sits on there with the one bolt. And I'm hoping that the hood will push it down that little bit more. There's not a whole lot of resistance there. It's just kind of rubber that flexes, but it does go. I noted that it goes on this side of the power steering pump. That was a little bit of finicking to get it in there. There is a harness here that just sort of routes in front of it. That harness is for your rad fans. So that sort of just goes in front of the heat shield bracket. Again, red wire won't be there. And that was that. You're also included in the kit this rubber gasket that just slides right in. And they're saying in the kit to have the side that sticks out more to be pointing towards the fender. So this little gasket, again, just pushes in, make sure it seals all the way around there, and you're good. So the next step, according to this, I've done that's just for the grommet, is here. We push the crossover tube through it. Push the end of the crossover tube with the mass airflow sensor attached through the hole in the heat shield. So we're going to end up with this happening once that goes in. Okay. So we're in, we're tested. It sounds incredible. I'll do a running clip in a minute. Make sure this focuses today. Anyway, they wanted me to put the relays and zip tie them in there. I didn't like that idea. So, Moss, if you end up watching this, make this box with 2 holes pre-drilled in it. You can use the factory hardware to mount the relays right there. Okay, and then what we did is we drilled another hole in the box there and mounted my air compressor, rerouted the lines, and the air horns are in. Now, before I forget, to get to that one bolt, you had to pull your washer bottle out. Well, I did anyway. So I'm going to bolt the washer bottle there and there, and it's sitting in its little rubber tube there. And then we'll do focus. Well, you don't want to. Anyway, we'll do a running clip so you can hear it. It snorts pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. Oh, the other thing that you got to do too that I totally forgot. Once you've moved your intake air temperature sensor wiring and your mass airflow sensor wiring, you're left with some wires that kind of dangle pretty close to the heat shield. So I'm just going to throw a quick little zip tie on there to secure them to the factory loom so they don't hang down and potentially come loose and melt themselves away. So we'll do that and then fire it up. Alright, now we're officially done. So ensure that you make sure these are tight. I'm a little anal retentive and like them all pointing the same way. Again, these two clamps here better be nice and snug so you got no movement, or it would be what was called unmetered air. Anything past this going that way is going to be unmetered. This is all it reads your airflow. And then make sure that that little guy hiding way in there is tight, that holds your air filter onto your mass airflow. Make sure your horns are tight, I guess, if you have air horns in there, which I do. Washer box is tightened in there, which it should be. So now the moment that you've all been waiting for, what it sounds like. So I'd just like to point out my sticker here. Also given to me by a very close personal friend who happens to be gay. So, we're going. Oh, I should point out my keychain too while we're at it. Yeah, even though we're in Canada, we still feel the same way. So we're going to go ahead and get the keys in there. Fires up nice. It's definitely got a little bit of a lower grumble at idle. I'm happy with it. Yeah, that sounds excellent. I'm very happy. Thank you, Moss Miata, for providing me with that kit. I'm very, very happy with it. The price was amazing. The install, if I wasn't making this video, would have taken me, 20 minutes, half an hour tops, taking my time. I did forget, I do have to put a zip tie around here to hold those cables. And then I will show you the required tools that I use for this job. So I used a 13mm wrench. You're going to walk with me while I put them away. 13mm wrench. I used this monster 1/4-inch extension here to get to that back bolt, but you don't need it. And then a 12mm socket, a 10mm socket. There's a little extension, which really, really helped. This was just to get the grommet in there a little bit better. It was easier, the intake air temperature. Bigger one to tighten up the hose clamps. You could have used a socket there. The ratcheting wrench was a nice touch, and of course the 1/4-inch ratchet, and that was everything to get that Cobalt kit in there. So I'm pretty happy, other than being an idiot and opening the box from the wrong side, because I'm super smart and impatient like that. But other than that, that's it. You should have all of this stuff left. Actually, here, let me show you everything. Full ashtray if you get really angry at it. But these are your parts. So you have these two short little guys left, one longer one, two medium ones, two nuts, and then this big honking mother. If you don't decide to mount your relay into the airbox like I did, like this, you will have one nut and bolt combination left over. You can use this nut and bolt to bolt the two relays to themselves and stuff them in there, but why you wouldn't drill a hole and put it on there is beyond me. And then you'll have this little pile of parts left. So top of your airbox, bottom of your airbox, snorkel tube, sorry, bracket, and then the main intake tube. So anyway, that's it. That's all installed. That's the custom plate I got made for the front. The back one should be coming. And that's it. That's one of the easiest installs I think I've ever done on a cold air. That was super, super easy. Will it net me anymore? No. Gets me a little bit better sound. Cobalt claims a couple of horsepower, but I don't know how much I believe that. I don't know why my phone isn't focusing here. So anyway, they say that, there we go. They say that it'll net you a couple of horsepower extra on there. I don't know if that's true. It's more just the sound and the throttle response that I was going for. But other than that, till next time and next modification, we'll go from there.